So this month's developer live stream for Ashes of Creation just ended, and it was a good one. If you somehow don't already know, we got a fairly in-depth look at the Alpha 2 character creator, and it was incredibly impressive. Considering this is only the Alpha 2 creator, and we're going to have more features, better options, and a better UI by release, I would say let's give a huge shout out to everyone at Intrepid who put in a lot of hard work on this. I mean, it really shows the quality that Intrepid intends for Ashes of Creation. Now, aside from the character creator, we also got some more in-depth answers on systems and some new character art towards the end of the stream. So without further ado, let's jump right in. As always, if you enjoy this content, drop a like and subscribe so that I can keep making these videos for you all. Now, there are a few things to note before going into the specifics of the character creator. And it's something cool that Intrepid is doing that very few games have done in the past. And that is that we're going to have access to this character creator before launch. So you'll be able to spend as much time as you want to creating your character, and then you can save it as a preset, and then when the game is live, you'll be able to jump in and start playing right away. Now, today was just a preview, but once the Alpha 2 character creator is in a more polished state, it'll be made available for all of us to test. They also plan to run some contests with prizes involved, which could include making versions of different developers or content creators. And as always, Intrepid loves to embrace the memes, and they've already given us a preset for Asmongold.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Oh my god!
Wait a minute, I know that guy.
Oh my god! I forgot about this guy. We were playing with the functionality and how.
Now, aside from memeing on Asmon, what they're actually showing us here is the blending system. You'll be able to create different presets of characters and use them with the blending tool. As you select features on your character, you can drag to morph features from the different presets. This will allow you to create a very immersive family tree as you make new characters. Something that is very important here is that they said that the devs intend to use this creator to create the NPCs that populate the world. So getting this working and polished is actually a huge step in helping the devs to quickly populate the world. And this blending system will be incredibly useful to them as they do. Players will also be able to use this to customize NPCs and NPC family members that reside on their freeholds. They are also planning to translate the back-end code of this into a version that can be used for the animal husbandry system, which means we could have a pretty impressive variety of how animals will look throughout the world. And you can see Steven messing around with the character creator in the background while we go over some of this. So far, there are only 2 of the 9 races within the character creator, the Vek and the Kalar, and the Vek haven't really been fully implemented yet. But one thing I am super happy about is that the Vek look far more realistic than previously. They now line up with the art style that we've seen for the other character models so far. And I know many of you guys, myself included, were previously a little worried about the gap in art styles between the Vek and the other races. This also makes me super excited to see what the Tulnar are going to look like. They also talked about a customizable detail system, which applies different textures to the body, such as scales for the Renkai, the scaration on the Vek, or body hair for the dwarves. So yes, I know all of our dwarven friends out there are going to be happy to hear about the body hair. It was also confirmed that you will be able to have a good old beer belly in true dwarven fashion. But depending on how many different textures there are available, we could see a lot of variety within each race itself. Now, as we can see, there are a bunch of options and sliders on the right-hand side, including a variety of certain sliders for more sensitive areas. But these are also just the more general options. After selecting these, you can actually choose the sculpt option, which, as you can see, it allows you to get in and select certain body features to adjust. Their goal with this was to create a very intuitive and tactile system. I think we've all had that experience in other character creators where no matter how you move the slider, it always just seems a little bit off. And their goal with this system was to make it very easy to achieve positive results. Now, I know there are a bunch of people out there that are worried about the hardware requirements after seeing the amount of detail and customization available. I mean, it is one of the reasons you don't often see a crazy in-depth character creator for an MMO, because you could have hundreds of players in one area, and that's a lot of strain on a GPU. But the team working on this actually spent a lot of time making sure that it was viable before they even made the character creator. One of the guys who helped with the optimization of combining character meshes that we saw demonstrated in that video with the 1,000-player siege also worked on this project. The game is going to merge all these different meshes and materials into batches, allowing the GPU to render it without much extra effort. Now, the decal system you can see here is something that I know almost every gamer has wanted. Putting scars and tattoos on your character has always been a bit of a point of frustration. You select a decal and it just kind of plasters it in a certain place or location. You might be able to rotate it or change the size, but once again, it just never seems to look quite right. And instead, we can just click and drag decals onto the body and change it however we want. So we saw some really impressive features with this character creator reveal. Let me know what you guys are most excited about in the comments. I personally am really excited to see the customization options for the more unique races. I mean, if it's this awesome for humans, imagine what you're going to be able to do with the Vec, Pyre, or the Tolnar. We will cover more of the character creator on this channel, especially as we start to see more of the features from it, but let's move on to some of the other information we got from the stream. So here we see the male Pyre, which looks incredible. Now, obviously, it still needs a few more passes before it's in line with the more realistic style that the other character models have so far. And as we mentioned earlier, I'm excited to see the Pyre in the character creator and see what kind of options we have for these branchlers. I mean, we were told earlier that you would be able to change the branchlers pretty in depth, and the branchlers themselves might actually change with the seasons or zones you're in. We also saw this creature, which is intended to be one of the marine raid bosses in Alpha 2. And the picture doesn't really do the size justice, as Steven confirmed that this fight was going to take many ships to accomplish, which hopefully means that we'll be seeing some more about the naval combat system soon, as it is going to be included in Alpha 2. Now, my friend and fellow content creator Fane finally got his question answered on the livestream. He asked, what happens to a 1NE server legendary weapon or item if the person holding it stops playing? Well, Steven said that it'll become available again through the original method in which it was achieved. Now, I'm hoping there's a bit more of a complicated system to it than if you just stop paying your subscription, a legendary weapon disappears. But it is good to know that players won't be locked out of achieving a legendary because someone stopped playing the game for good. We also got a more in-depth view at how they plan to approach questing and storylines. It will not be a straight linear progression or the same for every character. Different story arcs will have systems where they branch or they'll have pivot points that are based on player choices or things that happen in the world. This should create a very dynamic and interactive narrative. Now, the final piece of information that I thought was super important was about instance content. Ashes of Creation is intended to have about 20% instance content and 80% open world. However, we were told today that the instance content will primarily be used for storyline or structured events. And best in slot items and the best gear in the game will never be achieved through instance content. That will always come from an open world scenario where you actually have to compete with others. And this means that we're not going to have raiding or dungeon content like many of us have grown to expect from the World of Warcraft theme park style MMOs. You're gonna have to compete with others over world objectives in order to achieve this best gear. So this does kind of line up with the game's philosophy of risk versus reward and having systems that create friction between players, but I also know it is going to disappoint some people because a lot of us loved that style of raiding. Well, that's all I have for this month's live stream. Let me know what you thought about the stream in the comments below, and if you haven't already, I do recommend watching the entire stream as it was a pretty good one. It seems like we are starting to see more and more as we move closer to Alpha 2. I'm hoping that next month we'll see more about the updated combat system, as well as maybe allowing us to get back into the game with some spot testing. If you made it to this point in the video, hopefully you enjoyed the content, so please like, subscribe, and throw something in the comments to help support the channel. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.